Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics Snake Mountain playset from the folks over at Super 7. Oh my god, guys, this is it. It's what we have been building up to for nearly 13 years. The final piece. Well, final piece as of right now for the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line. It is unbelievable, and I am so excited to be doing this video and taking a look at this massive new playset. So let's go ahead and start all the way at the very beginning, because this thing went up for pre-order back in 2019, and it felt like it had already been something in the works for years leading up to that. See, originally, Mattel showed off a prototype for a Snake Mountain playset at San Diego Comic-Con several years ago. Then when they transferred the license over to Super 7, Super 7 picked up the project and finally put it up for pre-order back in 2019. And here we are at the tail end of 2020, and Snake Mountain is finally in our hands. Now, this was not a cheap playset by any means. The retail price through Super 7 was $600. They did offer a payment plan, which is what I did, so over the course of 6 months, you could pay $100. And then there was the excruciating wait to get this playset because the entire thing was made to order. They only made the amount of playsets that were actually pre-ordered, and then we had to wait for them to go through the manufacturing process. So that's actually kind of what contributed to the overall price of this thing. But it was like the final piece for the collection. It's huge, and many of us who have been collecting this line for so many years just felt like we had to have a Snake Mountain to complete the overall collection. So I'm really happy that I've got it here. It's been a long ride, and we're going to dive in and we're going to take a look at everything about this. At least I'm going to try to cover as much as I possibly can. Hopefully, I cover it all in this video. So first of all, shipping is something that a lot of people were worried about. So let me tell you my experience with this. This thing showed up in a huge box via FedEx. This box measured 26 inches in length, 28 inches in height, 25 inches depth, and it weighed 49 pounds. This was a huge, heavy box. Now, what's really nice about this is they did put these hard plastic corner protectors on all four corners of the box all the way around. However, 4 of mine were knocked off. That was probably due to FedEx bumping them around. But when you open that outer shipping box, there is a second box inside of that, also with the 8 corner protectors. So this thing was double boxed with double corner protection, which is really nice because I know a lot of people were worried about dings to the box of their very expensive toy. Once you get it out of that amazing shipping box, you are left with this beautiful, beautiful packaging for Snake Mountain. So the measurements on this box is 24 inches in length, 26 inches in height, 24 inches width there. Huge box, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It features some beautiful artwork on there that fits in perfectly with what we've seen throughout the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, including Castle Grayskull. This box is huge, but that box art's amazing. I could totally see a lot of people wanting to hang onto this box for that amazing box art. Rotating that around to the side, one of the sides has a huge brand new bio for Snake Mountain, which is a super fun read. And the other side of that box shows you several of the key features that this playset has. And then when you look at the back of the box, it's got that nice white back with the red outlines of all of the accessories, which is a great homage to what the back of the boxes for all of the vintage playsets looked like. Now, one of the great things about that box art that I want to show you guys, I talked about how great it was. I talked about people keeping the box. Well, every box also includes this massive poster featuring that gorgeous Snake Mountain box art. It even has the bio on the back of the poster, so it sort of fits in with the other posters that we got throughout the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line. But I love this. This is totally worth being framed and hung up. It's a huge poster, but it is gorgeous artwork, and I thought this was a really, really nice added bonus for the whole thing. Okay, so we got this thing out of the box, and it is worth noting that you do have this really cool little booklet that guides you through the assembly process. This is your instruction sheet, and it's really fun because it is reminiscent of what the old instruction manuals kind of looked like. Shows you all of the pieces that come with it. We've even got some fun pictures of like Orko playing with the mountain and showing you how to assemble it. I also did an entire unboxing and assembly live stream video, which is on my channel. If you guys have not already watched that and you want to see the entire process of putting this together, I would definitely recommend going to watch that. I'm going to touch on some of the assembly things here. For the most part, this does come out of the box pretty much assembled, but you do have to attach a lot of the little pieces and the little attachments on here. For example, the snake head up here is a separate piece. You can see that it just kind of turns and it like unlocks that way. And that is how we would attach the snake. So it is something that you could easily pop back off if you need to. The first time I assembled it, I actually had a hard time getting it on there, but it seems like I just kind of basically had to get it on there the first time because now it is very easy to kind of twist on and off. But that's the way that attaches. There's also the bridge for the front of Snake Mountain, which you have to attach after the mountain is open. So we're going to look at the folding feature in a little while, but if it's opened up, this basically works as a way to lock the playset together. So you got to find these little lips here that the bridge folds into, and then give it a nice firm press. You can see it really locks into place, nice and solid. But this is what stabilizes the playset and keeps it locked open. So it sort of works as a locking mechanism for the entire thing. So this right here is what your fully assembled Snake Mountain playset looks like, totally opened up and from the outside. And to be honest, this is the way I could see a lot of people wanting to display this, because unlike Castle Grayskull, which sort of looks complete just from the front, Snake Mountain is like this whole mountain landscape here. And it's a really impressive sort of amalgamation between the different versions of Snake Mountain we've seen throughout the years. There is absolutely a lot of influence from the vintage playset here, but part of this also has a really great filmation influence with the larger pointy mountain over here with the snake actually wrapped around it, something that the vintage playset did not have. In the original cartoon series, it was just like a tall, pointy spire of a mountain with a snake wrapped around it. Now, one of the differences, of course, is we don't have like the snake coming off with like the lava falls coming out of it, but they did work the blood falls, the lava falls, into the center there, and it looks really great. We've got the bridge kind of crossing in front of this bright, kind of translucent reddish-orange waterfall of lava, and it looks really, really cool. The overall look of this playset is pretty impressive, I will say. I think the colors look really great. It's very similar to the vintage in the way that it does seem to just be kind of cast in a purple plastic, and then they sort of do a lot of dry brushing and stuff to add all the details on there, but there is a lot more detail on this than, say, the vintage. You could see that they got some really great details over here on the face, like kind of the vines that are creaking around and wrapping around the face there. You can see some nice lighter dry brushing on all of the little spikes and the spires there. All of that looks really, really nice. Plus, the overall sculpted details on this are absolutely fantastic. I love looking around at all the rock formations and seeing kind of like the evil faces that are just hidden all throughout the mountain. And this is on the outside and the inside, and we're going to look at the inside here in just a bit. But, you know, you've got kind of like evil faces above the lava falls. You've got evil faces working the way up the stairs over on the side. Just as all these cool little details are worked into the sculpt, and I think that is just very, very cool looking. The snake itself is really neat. Now, it is a bright green in color with sort of like this black dry brushing on there. And there's not a lot of extra painted details on the snake. The eyes and the teeth do look like they have a bit of a metallic green paint to them, but it is so close to the actual green of it that it's very hard to tell, and it almost makes the snake look like it's not very detailed. I know that's one of the things a lot of people were bringing up in the stream that I did, is that the snake looked like it didn't have a lot of detail to it, and so I could totally understand that, and I think I kind of agree with that. Like I said, it doesn't come across too great on camera, but there is a little bit of a metallic green on the eyes and the teeth. It's just so similar in color to the rest of the snake that it doesn't really stand out very much. Some of the places I do really like the detail are on the door over here. You've got like this, it's supposed to be like an old iron frame kind of grate door there with like the wolf head on it. And it's got this really great paint deco that makes it look all rusty. So it looks old and creaky and rusty. And I think that is really cool. It does open and close. It doesn't really fold forwards very much. It folds backwards a lot better, but even still, it doesn't open all the way. But, I mean, that is still good for, you know, getting one of your figures to walk in through the door. Now, the Havoc staff doesn't really fit height-wise, but, you know, if this is where you want Skeletor to enter Snake Mountain, this is where Skeletor can enter Snake Mountain. And while we've got him here, this is a good time to kind of stand my Masters of the Universe Classic Skeletor action figure up here on top, just so you can see what he looks like in comparison to the entire mountain. So the Classics figures were in the 7-inch scale, and this shows you what he looks like on the overall mountain, which is a great time to talk about the size of this playset. So by my measurements, the mountain itself from the bottom all the way to the tip of this spire was around 37 inches tall. It might be between 36 and 37 inches, kind of pushing 38 if we go all the way up to this tipping point here. Width-wise, so while this is fully open, from one side to the other, I got 42 inches. Now, that's big. It's a big playset. But it is worth bringing up that if you go back to when Super 7 put this up for pre-order, they had a very distinct image showing the measurements of this, and they put the height at 36 inches, which is about what I got. I actually got closer to 38 up to this point, but they put 36 inches tall, but they said it would be 48 inches from end to end, so width-wise, so I'm coming up with 42 inches, so we're roughly 5 to 6 inches shorter there. I do believe Brian said throughout various interviews from the time the pre-order closed to the time this shipped that they had to scale it down a little bit. I don't remember the specifics of that, but I do know that I've seen people kind of saying that it's not as big as it was when they ordered it, and it does not seem like it is. It seems like it is smaller than what it said on your initial pre-order. So if that's a problem, I totally understand that, because it is a different size than it was when you paid for it. Again, still a massive playset, but there is a size difference there, and it is worth mentioning. All right, so since we're talking about kind of the scaled down size here, or it being a little bit smaller than at least that original prototype, I do want to definitely talk about like this little stair walkway right here, because it's sort of like a forced perspective thing. They definitely did that thing where it looks like it could be an actual trail, but very much like on the vintage playset, it's a bit too small for your figures to actually stand on or walk on. I mean, these stairs are way too steep. You can't stand anybody on those. And look at how skinny the walkway is. I mean, He-Man's legs are basically hanging off the side of this walkway. The bridge is a little bit better. Like, it is wide enough that you can actually get him to stand on it. But yeah, most of these walkways going up the tall mountain part, way too small for your figures to stand on. Now, we do have this nice big ledge over here on the side that could fit probably 2 figures side by side. That's really cool for standing on. We've got another large ledge right on the other side of the bridge that you can stand a figure on, as well as a cool little walkway leading up to the part underneath the large ledge over on the end. Now, there are a few fun features over here on this end of the playset. One of them is a breakaway wall, which is right down here on the bottom. This is a really cool little area where you can get He-Man or whoever, but probably He-Man, to punch through the wall to break into Snake Mountain. It's a fun little feature. I'm going to come back to this when we're on the inside so I can show you how that plays to the inside of Snake Mountain. Right above that is a ledge where we've got the chains, the little shackles. Now, this is something else that comes directly off the vintage playset, but this time around, the shackles are real metal chains, and you can actually open up the shackles there and clip them on the wrists of your figures. And this actually works really well. You can see these little clamps open right up. There's a little peg that snaps them back shut, and the chains are also long enough so they're not too short. It's pretty easy to put any of your heroes up there and shackle them to the side of Snake Mountain. So I love the face. The face just feels so iconic to me because it's straight off the vintage playset. And one of the things that the vintage playset did is it had like this microphone feature where you could talk and be the voice of Snake Mountain or the spirit of Snake Mountain. And there was a little lever on the inside of the mountain that would move the mouth on the outside. Well, this one doesn't have a lever on the inside, but they did still put like a loose articulated joint here. So you can just kind of move the mouth yourself up and down. Just kind of, I am the spirit of Snake Mountain. Hey man. Yeah, so you just kind of do it yourself. I don't know. It's fun. I'm glad it's there. And then when you come over here to the other end, the only other thing I really want to show you is that just like on the vintage playset, you do have this larger kind of hole here, which acts as like a cave, which is a way that any of your characters could get inside of Snake Mountain. So the mountain looks pretty great on the outside. I mean, it looks really great. To be perfectly honest, I think it looks awesome. And it's very, very big. And I'm going to flip it around to show you guys the inside, but this is one thing I want to talk about with this. This thing is so big and so heavy that it is a bit hard to move this thing around. Castle Grayskull still felt like something you could fold up and carry around the house if you needed to. This is much more difficult to do so. I mean, like when I want to move this thing, the weight, it's so heavy. I guess it's a good thing because it feels nice and solid, but yeah, let me get this thing turned around so we can check out the inside. So now we've got the inside of Snake Mountain in view. So one of the things about the vintage Snake Mountain toy that has always been sort of a big fan complaint is that it just really felt so empty inside of that original playset. There wasn't a whole lot going on in there. And it almost feels that way with this one too. I say almost because I do think they tried to do something pretty special here. They added a lot of extra things to make it not feel so hollow and so empty. So let's go over some of the details in here because I do think there's some really, really fun things going on in here. So first of all, let's go all the way down here to the corner. Now, you remember that cave I just showed you on the outside? That actually leads into this cool little entryway into Snake Mountain, which looks really, really neat. There's a little stairs. There's like some cool little pillars, again, with like some scary monster type visages there. I think that is really neat, and that is something totally new that they created for this particular version of the playset. Right above that, you even have a nice ledge that any of your figures can stand on or whatever you want to do with it. You can put some different accessories there, but there's a nice ledge on the inside there. Now, most of the space up here in the top is filler. This was all just kind of empty shell on the inside of that vintage one like I talked about. So one of the things that the Horsemen decided to do on this particular version is sculpt all of these amazing, creepy rock formations that look like evil faces. Now, all of these had to be attached right out of the box. You can see that they're just hollowed out. They have a little peg hole on the back. There's little pegs sticking out of the walls there. So all you got to do is find the spots and plug those in, and it does fill in the space there. I think it makes it look pretty cool. There's also like this really cool like slide type area back in the back that, I don't know, it almost looks like there was supposed to be some sort of a boulder or a rock or something that fell down that. I don't think that I'm missing or forgetting anything because it doesn't even come to the actual like trap door. It's just kind of molded in that back wall right there. So I don't know, maybe that is supposed to be for something, or maybe it was intended for something. So right above that is where we actually do have that trap door. So I do want to talk about that as well. You can see we've got the net here. This is something that comes out of the vintage Snake Mountain. It was always kind of funny, like, because it was the same thing in the original. Like, there was a trap door up here. They would fall down, land in this net, and it's just the same thing again. But it does function really well. So right behind that cool rusty grate I showed you guys from the outside, we've got this big ledge, and there's a nice trap door right there. Underneath, there's like this tiny little lever, very similar to what you would see on like the Snake Mountain trapdoor, that by turning this little lever right here, it drops your figure directly down into that net that is right underneath, where they could totally just like climb back out if they needed to. But no, it just traps them in a net directly under the trapdoor, hanging all the way up off the ground. So that way, we can trap any of the heroic warriors that are trying to break into Snake Mountain through the top. So yeah, it functions really well. And again, it's just a great callback to the vintage playset. So as we come over to the other side of the castle, one of the cool little details I want to show you guys is what was the battery plate on the vintage playset. This battery cover had a sticker on it that had an image that looked exactly like this, but it is fully sculpted this time. So you got this great yellow like Skeletor like skull face there. You got all these electronics, these wires, you got a little screen down there. So it's sort of like this is Skeletor's computer, I guess, just hanging out here. But it's a neat callback again to the vintage playset. taking a sticker that was covering a battery plate and turning it into an actual sculpted piece. Now, again, this plate is like just a flat, hollowed out plate with a hole in the back that plugs into one of these little posts in the wall, just like those faces over there. So it's not like big or sculpted into the playset. It's something you got to attach, but it is kind of fun. So this is a good part to mention that there are no electronics with this playset. I know back when Mattel was talking about doing this, they had talked about doing a Bluetooth system where they were going to still work the microphone in, but that never made it past Mattel. So Super 7 did not put any electronics in this. There's no microphone. There's no Bluetooth capability. I've had a lot of questions about that, so I just want to make sure that's perfectly clear. There's no electronics with this. We do, however, still have the little wolf tower, which is what worked as the microphone on the vintage toy. So I guess you can just, pretend like it's a microphone. It does pop out of the playset. There's just a little peg right there on the base. You got a little peg hole on the bottom, so you could pop this out. Now we're going to come back to that because there's an actual reason this has to pop out. But this will just stand right on the inside here, and you'll be able to see it from the outside. And you can also rotate it around, and it's got a cool little sculpted door on the front of it, which just opens up, and it's sort of like a little storage compartment. So, I guess if Skeletor needs to store something, he won't be able to store his Havoc staff because that doesn't fit. But, if you want to put other things in there, maybe swords and stuff, that's that's what we've got going on with that. Okay, so remember that breakaway wall that we talked about on the outside of Snake Mountain? Well, that happens to be on the other side of this dungeon down here. So, kind of a cool idea, right? If Skeletor captures any of the heroes, locks them in the dungeon, well, He-Man can break them out from the outside. Few things I need to talk about with this. So the great door opens, just like so. By the way, it looks awesome. Great paint deco. It's got that same rusty look to it as the the gate door up on the top. So that can fold open there. I'm just going to put He-Man in here for right now just to kind of show you guys. When you put He-Man in this little dungeon here and you shut the door, I want to show you guys how snug that is. You almost can't shut the door all the way because with that breakaway wall, like He-Man is all the way up against it. He cannot move. This poses a problem because Man-at-Arms can't fit in there because his armor's too bulky. Stratos can't fit in there because his jetpack is too bulky. In fact, most of the figures that you want to try to put in there are not going to fit in there unless they are as bare as He-Man or unless it's Teela or one of the female figures. Otherwise, this thing is too small to house any of your heroic warriors. Also, it's kind of funny when you actually have He-Man break the wall away while somebody's in there because it totally just knocks them out. Like the wall just crashes down on top of them, and I find that really funny. But so the wall just pops inwards like that. You can see it's just like this little breakaway wall. It easily just fits right back into the hole and just kind of, it fits in there nice and snug so it clips back in place. That way it's easy for a figure to kind of pop it back out. The other thing I found really funny about this, it's totally open on the side over here. So any of your figures could totally just break out of this dungeon by walking through the side over here. The other thing that I want to talk about in here real quick is that this base right here, where we've got the second floor, this isn't something that you have to assemble yourself when you're putting the mountain together, but it is removable. It slides right out. And I found that out by accident while I was moving the playset one time. It's also very thin. Like, it doesn't, like, I don't know, it's not like super thin, but I do worry that this is something that could get stepped on and broken. So I'm going to tell you guys to be very careful with this because if you're going to pick this up, don't pick it up like this. Do not grab onto the second floor and try to lift because that's how I found out that this pops out. I would be very, very cautious with this. Okay, so now we're going to talk about all of the accessories that are included, starting with a very basic one, the ladder. You got to have a ladder with your Snake Mountain because it comes straight out of the vintage playset. And the paint deco looks really nice on this. Like, it does look like actual ropes tying together some wood there to make the ladder. It's got these little notches, so it easily rests against the second floor there. But you can also put it on the outside if you want to. Whatever you want to do with it. It's a ladder. It's just like what we saw on the vintage playset. Now, the next accessories are a lot of fun, and the next one that I want to bring in to talk about is the amazing little table here. So this, of course, comes straight out of the Filmation animated series, something we saw Skeletor using a lot. This is carried over, actually, in a lot of media for Skeletor. This is what Skeletor would use to devise his evil plans. So it's really great getting all of your evil warriors to kind of stand around this table, do their planning. You got the nice little red orb in the middle where they can see various things happening around Eternia. This is really cool. It's mostly just all in black with the bright red on there. It's very light. Like the bottom is very hollow with the top being more of like a vinyl type material, but it still feels really, really well made. And it's a very, very cool accessory. Which is going to bring me up to the next amazing accessory. One of the absolute best things to come out of this playset is Skeletor's throne. For the first time ever, we're getting a toy of Skeletor's throne based on the way that it looked in the cartoons. And it is so incredibly cool. So this is definitely made of a vinyl type material because it feels very sturdy. It feels like it's got some good quality weight to it, but it is like still kind of hollowed out on the bottom. But it's really cool. Great design there. It's got like this bluish hue to the bones that really brings out all of the cool details there. So getting Skeletor to sit in it is a bit tricky because the Masters of the Universe Classics figures have never sat down very good. I mean, this is something we've been talking about for the entirety of this line anytime there's something that comes out for the figures to sit in. So it is a bit tricky getting his legs in the right position, getting him to sit in it. Sometimes he kind of looks like he's slouching in it. But honestly, the slouching is kind of awesome. It works for Skeletor. I will say that if you've got your Club Grayskull Skeletor, your more Filmation one, he does a bit of a better job sitting in it. And again, it's got a very Filmation vibe to it, so that looks really, really cool. And the last thing that we're going to talk about on this playset, which is my absolute favorite thing, is this very cool little monster pit. This is an amazing inclusion. This is one of those things that was nothing but a little sticker on the floor of the original Snake Mountain playset. And the Four Horsemen have completely brought it to life by making it a 3-dimensional piece. Now again, this also feels like it might be a vinyl type material, so it feels very, very sturdy. And the paint deco on this is absolutely insane. I mean, we've got this neon yellowish green type pool of liquid that all of these creatures are coming out of. All of those creatures have a ton of colors, a bunch of great detail, 2 little lizard-like creatures crawling out of it, and then we've got these amazing green tentacles that are stretching out of it. One of the things that I love about the tentacles is that they're strong enough to actually hold up one of your figures. I mean, you can make it look like He-Man has been captured by this thing or is doing battle with it. It is amazing. So this thing could be placed pretty much anywhere you want, but if you're going to follow the place that it was originally, you're just going to put it down in that little empty spot in the bottom, and it really does a great job of filling in that big empty space right there. But it is easily, hands down, my favorite piece in this whole castle, followed very closely by Skeletor's Bone Throne. So the last thing I want to talk about with these accessories is, where do you put all these? Where do they go in this thing? Now, definitely that little pool of monsters works the best down there on the bottom, but one of the things I kind of struggle with is where to put the rest of these accessories. The Bone Throne really only seems to fit right here in this empty space up on the second floor. Trying to find other places to put it, it doesn't really fit. You can see it doesn't fit up on this ledge over here. So sitting it up here, it definitely kind of seems like this is the spot that they intended the Bone Throne to be. The table doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, there is just not anywhere that it fits good. I mean, you can try to squeeze it down here next to the jail cell if you want, but I think that's one of those things that's going to just kind of sit right there on the floor in between the 2 sides of the castle because it doesn't really fit very well on the inside. And I think that is the perfect time to bring up how to close this thing. So, the original Snake Mountain playset closed up. The Masters of the Universe Classics Castle Grayskull still kept that closing feature so that you could carry it around. Snake Mountain is a little bit different. Now, they did still work in the closing feature, but I need to show you guys that you cannot close this thing while it's fully assembled like this. because it's just not going to close all the way. Now, Brian Flynn from Super 7 did mention in an interview with me earlier this year, I think, that they kind of had to change it around where you have to take the wolf head off to close it. The other thing I realized is you have to take off at least this little faceplate right here in order to get the mountain to close all the way. So when you do that, it does close together. Now, the other thing is there are no little latches on the side, so it doesn't lock shut the way Castle Grayskull did. So it'll always be kind of open like this. And on top of that, trying to get these pieces like stored on the inside is very tricky because some of these pieces are so big. I had a hard time getting them all to fit on the inside. So this definitely doesn't really close up for storage the same way that Castle Grayskull did. And like I said, there's no handle on it. It's awkward. It's so heavy. It's not very mobile. It's really hard to move around. When you display it like this, you do just have the big net laying on top of the head over here, and that doesn't look very good. So really, I think this is the only side that works. So maybe you want to display it like this. It takes up less space. It still looks like Snake Mountain. So that is an option for you. But I definitely wanted to bring up all of those different things with closing it because it does not store the same way that Castle Grayskull did. So I've shown you guys Skeletor and He-Man with it, but how does it look with your Masters of the Universe Classics collection? Well, it works out really good. Because of the size, you really can stand a lot of figures all around it. It's definitely going to look cool as a backdrop in your collection. So I wanted to give you guys some shots just showing figures kind of scattered throughout the outside of it, the inside of it, using some of the various accessories, just to kind of give you all a feel for what it looks like with your figures. And we got so many other cool things with the Masters of the Universe Classics lineup, so I went ahead and threw in some vehicles, so you can see how the vehicles size next to it. The vehicles are actually pretty big, so they definitely look big still next to Snake Mountain. And I also wanted to throw in some of the larger figures, like Granomir and Megator, and, any of the other figures. Guy Gore, I threw him in there. So just some of the larger scale beasts as well, just so you can see how this thing measures up. And of course, we can't forget Castle Grayskull, the original Matty Collector giant playset. At one time, we thought this was going to be the only playset we would get for this line. It's really impressive looking at them side by side because I remember thinking this thing was gigantic, and it's pretty small compared to Snake Mountain, especially with Snake Mountain all opened up. But definitely a great companion piece to that Castle Grayskull playset. All right, guys. It's comparison time! So check it out. I wanted to bring in the vintage Snake Mountain playset and just kind of stand it right in front there so you can see these two and you can just see how much bigger the new one is compared to that vintage playset. But it also lets you see a lot of the similarities between the two. You can see where they took a lot of the design elements from the vintage one and applied them to this brand new one for Masters of the Universe Classics. So just like with Grayskull, it really does feel like a pretty sweet visual update. So the other quick comparison I want to do is to the statue from Icon Heroes that came out several years ago. I love this statue. I always thought it was a really great amalgamation between the two designs of Filmation and the original playset. And you can kind of see how they took very similar themes from that statue and incorporated it into the new playset. So it's just kind of fun looking at these two interpretations side by side like this. And now we got to talk about compatibility with other He-Man toy lines, because the one thing everybody has been asking me, Pixel Dan, what does Masters of the Universe Origins look like on it? Origins, of course, is the current brand new 5.5-inch He-Man toy line that Mattel is putting in stores that looks very much like the vintage figures. And I gotta tell you guys, these things look pretty great with this. Now, they are a lot more brightly colored, so they actually stand out amongst this very dark, very gritty castle here. But the size, the scale, it's pretty great. I mean, they almost fit with this better than the 7-inch figures, which was the same kind of thing we said about Classics Castle Grayskull, that the 5.5-inch figures do work a little bit better. I mean, I think these scale pretty great with this. So if you want to use this as a playset or a backdrop for your Origins figures, it is an option for you. Which also means it works pretty well with your vintage Masters of the Universe figures. In fact, when I stood a bunch of my vintage figures alongside this castle, I immediately got these vibes of those old kind of store displays that we would see back in the 80s, where you would see these amazing like end cap displays or store displays with figures on them. That's what this feels like. So you could totally work this in with your vintage display if that's something you want to do as well. And I also got a ton of requests for all sorts of different He-Man toy lines compared to this. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of them up here in front of the mountain so you can see them. We're going to throw in Mondo. We're going to throw in 2000X He-Man. We're going to throw in the Origins Skeletor again so you can see him in the lineup there. We've got a Loyal Subjects figure. We've got a Mini Masters figure. We've got a Mega Constructs figure. And we've even got that brand new World's Smallest Skeletor, which is ridiculously small compared to this new Snake Mountain. But hey, you guys wanted to see him, so there you go. There is a lineup of all different scales of He-Man toys with this brand new playset. And that, my friends, is my exhaustive look at the Masters of the Universe Classics Snake Mountain playset. I am wore out. This is a beast of a toy, legit. There are definitely some things that I can be very nitpicky on. I think I brought up some good criticisms throughout the review. But at the end of the day, I still think this looks amazing. It is still big. I am very happy to have this kind of final capper to the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line. As of right now, that is it for Classics. Mattel has moved on to Origins. We do have a new 7-inch line coming out next year called Mastersverse, which could technically be the spiritual successor to Classics. But as of this moment, we never know what the future holds. This right here is the final piece for the almost 13-year run of Masters of the Universe Classics. And it's been an amazing journey. I have followed that line from the very beginning right here on this channel. I've got the full collection right here now that I've got Snake Mountain to add to it. And it's pretty cool seeing the entire thing culminate in this one final piece. Now, as I said at the beginning, this was pre-order only, and they only made what was ordered. So, unfortunately, you can't buy this now for retail price. You're only going to be able to get it on the secondary market, and I have a feeling that the price is only going to go up on this thing. So I hope that everybody that has been collecting this line that was able to get one was able to secure it. But I hope if you're out there trying to get it, you do have an opportunity to own it. It's a really fun toy, and like I said, it's a great capper to an absolutely amazing toy line that I had so much fun collecting. Guys, thank you so much for all of the amazing support over the years. I love you all. You are amazing. And as we say, we never say goodbye. We say good journey.
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.